the Lorain English department wants me to have you do a peer review on a student's essay. We may even have to do 2 peer reviews. So I wanted to make this quick video just to give you some information as to how to do it and to kind of encourage you to be relaxed and also responsible as you're doing this. You'll need to, once you submit your essay for this week, you'll need to then find a student's essay that you can access. You'll see the list there on the sidebar, and find one that hasn't been reviewed yet. So, and that way we can ensure that everyone gets at least one peer review. And I want you to consider the article or the essay that the student has written on 5 aspects or metrics, if you will. All right. The very first one is title. Do they have a good title up there? Is it 2-tiered? And I've linked up some videos about titles, and so I'm expecting students to watch those and to imitate that. So the first thing is you are checking is the creativity, the substance, the complexity of the title, and the fact that it needs to be 2-tiered. The second thing I want you to look at is the surface of the essay. I do not want you to be writing notes and to noting down everything and then trying to give that feedback. You'll just be simply entering 2 points, 1 point, or 0 point if they have what they need to have there. And when I talk about the surface level of your writing or of an essay, I'm talking about the words, the level of the words themselves and the punctuation. Is the grammar correct? Is the spelling correct? Is the punctuation correct? Things like that. I'm sitting in somewhat of an older house, and I have a forced air heating system, and I can hear it's about ready to kick in. It's going to be making a lot of noise, but I'm going to go ahead and talk over that. I apologize. So on the surface, I want you to consider as you read it, are there a lot of mistakes here, like spelling or just wrong punctuation use that you can recognize? And if you can, I want you to reflect that in the points you give concerning the surface quality of the reading. Again, I don't want this to be very time consuming for you, so I don't want you to try to point out to the other student where it is. It's enough for you to say, you have problems here with this. That's why you got a 0 out of 2. Or there were some issues. I saw some mistakes. So that's a 1 out of 2. A 2 out of 2 in this metric of the surface of the essay would be, I didn't recognize any mistakes, okay? Concerning grammar, spelling, punctuation, mechanics, stuff like that. The third metric is substance. What is actually being said? Can you follow it? Can you see the linear progression of the thought? Does it make sense to you? Is the student really being very careful with the claims, or are there big jumps? Is there exaggeration going on? Is there a sloppiness of the logic, of the content, of the substance? So again, at that point, you just need to be asking yourself, can I understand this easily enough? Not necessarily do you agree with it, but can you see what the person is saying? Can you see the thought process? Can you see the evidence or the support they're trying to bring forward based to present their observation or their claims? So if basically there's no problem there, it's 2 out of 2. If you think it's a bit sloppy, if you see that there's some mistakes that you disagree with in terms of not just opinion, but that's just wrong, that's not the right facts, or that's not the right logic, then give that a 1 out of 2. Okay? And then if it's just bizarre or way off the mark, okay, then it's a 0 out of 2 for the substance. I don't want you ever, put anybody in a situation where they feel embarrassed about their work, but sometimes a writer might get distracted in where they're going and make leaps in their head. Excuse me, they somehow manage to leave very many open spaces, if you will, in the reasoning on the paper, even though they see it on their head. So that's, if there's just too much of that and the thing itself just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, then I would give it a 0 out of 2. Now, the fourth metric is paragraphing. There needs to be at least 2 paragraphs in this essay. However, there could be 3, 4, 5, or 6. It depends on what the reader wants to do with that. But you know, if the essay is all one big chunky paragraph, it very likely could have been better arranged into different paragraphs. So, you know, something like that would get a 0 out of 2. But if the paragraphing, if the essay does have paragraphs, they get at least 1 point. But if the paragraphing doesn't seem to make much sense, at that point, you know, why did you make the paragraph division here? Or maybe the transitions don't really flow very well, or the paragraphs don't seem to be connected. At that point, I would give it a 1 out of 2. If you really don't notice anything wrong with the paragraphs and they aren't awkward, they don't stand out at you because one is so big and the other one is so small or something like that, just give it a 2 out of 2. But I do want you to start paying attention to paragraphing. How paragraphs, the size of the paragraphs, given the relative size of the whole thing, the whole text, the functions of the paragraph, the flow of the paragraph, the internal connections of the sentences, things like that, okay? The last metric that I want you to look at is the instructions. This is going to be simple enough, but this essay, this analysis essay, has some basic requirements you have to meet in terms of title, in terms of paragraph number, in terms of word length, in terms of topic. It has to be on a commercial. So, you know, if those things aren't met, then do not award 2 points out of 2. Figure out whether it's a 1 out of 2 situation or a 0 out of 2. At the end, you'll be able to submit your peer review, and the author of that essay that you looked at will be able to see what sort of score they made based on the rubric. That score is never going to be part of the final grade in this class. Okay? I am going to give anyone who does this assignment, writing the essay, submitting it, and then doing peer review, you're going to get a 10 out of 10 just as a completion grade. So do not worry as a reviewer that you are somehow blowing somebody's grade out of the water. That's not going to be the case. Okay? Now, having said that, it's anonymous review, so whoever wrote the essay you're looking at will never know that you reviewed it. And the points are not going to count towards their final grade. So please do not just do a fluff analysis. I mean, don't inflate the peer review, you know, scores that you give. Just be honest, you know. And you're going to be doing that author a favor by just saying, hey, you have some work to do here. Now, on the other side of this, if you really feel all things are right, don't feel bad about giving a 10 out of 10. I mean, you can't really, you know, fix what's not necessarily broken. So if there's not really anything truly amiss with that essay, if it's good enough for the rubric markers that I have there, 10 out of 10 is fine. But don't feel like you're going to be hurting someone's feelings or hurting somebody's grade if you give them a 5 out of 10. Okay, so you're going to have to decide how to do this. And this is all part of the learning package and growing as a writer. You know, how would you couch your feedback? How hard or soft or lenient would you be if you knew that this might actually be an impediment to someone's embracing of writing as a genuine lifelong activity? There are things to think about here, but in that sense, I believe peer review has some value.